Hi, this is Jared Mello, and this is another episode of Mello Mentoring. Before I begin, I'd like to thank everyone who subscribed to my channel last time, and if you have not, please do hit subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll know when I come up with new videos. And I also want to express my gratitude for all the people who reached out to me about my last video when I said I was struggling. And I'm happy to report I am doing much better now. It seems like the weather has gotten a little bit nicer. Some of my other projects, such as my podcast, have really been going well. I've met some interesting people in my life, and things seem to really be coming together. And it just goes to show you that this too shall pass has always been true for me. I'm just somebody that goes through a lot of peaks and valleys a lot of times, and they always do eventually end. And that goes with good times too, but it's always nice to know that whatever I'm feeling, feelings are not a fact, and they will eventually pass. But on to today's video. I'd like to talk about narcissism. A woman named Jennifer requested that I talk about narcissism. So we're going to talk about narcissism today and how our society is forgetting about the lost art of humility. And why is that happening? I think it's because we look at people like Conor McGregor, people like Donald Trump, people who are fairly narcissistic, and yet they're being rewarded exponentially for what they do. Now, there is a difference between narcissistic traits and narcissistic personality disorder. People who have the traits feel like they have an exaggerated sense of self-importance, lack of empathy, etc. Where I tend to draw the line is when it turns into abuse. And someone who is narcissistic may use something called gaslighting, especially in romantic relationships. And gaslighting, as I've gone over in a previous video, is when they try to attack your sense of self-worth. They tell you you're worthless, you're crazy, you need help. They're doing anything to belittle you, to knock you down, because often a narcissist will gaslight you when you confront them when you're trying to assert a boundary. And since their sense of self, the narcissist, is so fragile, they have to attack you. And this is why it happens. Now, narcissistic personality disorder goes into three phases generally of abuse. There's the idealization phase, the devaluing phase, and then the discarding phase. And I think a lot of women in particular are very familiar with a narcissistic male partner doing those things. The idealizing phase is when they are obsessed with you. You're the best thing that ever happened to them. They call this love bombing. But since nothing can really satisfy the narcissist, the person with narcissistic personality disorder, they eventually start feeling their pain of life again because no person can really fulfill them. And they begin to devalue you, like it would seem like overnight, and then they'll do their best to discard you, to get you out of their lives. And being in narcissistic abuse is similar to the frog in a boiling pot. When the water is cool at first and then the heat slowly rises, the frog never notices and dies. Being a victim of narcissistic abuse is very similar, where you don't quite know what the hell's going on for a while. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam, it hits you. Oh, that's what was going on. I was a victim of abuse. And I've also seen other traits. I've seen people on Instagram, for example, a lot of these self-help kind of guys and motivators. They're talking about a lot of narcissistic traits. They're telling people, hey, only hang out with certain kinds of people on your level. And although there may be some truth in that, that's also a narcissistic trait as well, where they feel they're special and they need to have special friends who are more like them. And then they think they're worth way more than what they often really are, which is why I say there's a fine line between having a healthy sense of self and extreme narcissism. Like, seriously. And I think there's a lot of people who go over the edge. And like I said, America's been rewarding this right now, so I get why it happens. Conor McGregor, does he have a healthy sense of self, or is he an extreme narcissist who then gaslights his opponents and talks trash and gets even more rewarded for that? Is that what's going on? Are we rewarding that? And then here we have all these social media accounts, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, where everyone's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And again, the irony is not lost on me that here I am talking about narcissism on camera, filming myself. The irony is not lost on me here. But I think our country, and the whole world for that matter, we're missing something, and it's humility. The lost art of humility. And this really strikes to me most when I see people being self-congratulatory about a good deed they did. They helped the homeless, or they did this, and the camera's right there to watch them. It's like, you know what? Yeah, you're doing a good deed, and yes, you might even inspire others to do a good deed, but I think the best way would be to do it anonymously and have a friend of yours say, hey, without you asking, say, hey, my buddy did this. Look how cool, look at how good it is that my buddy's doing this. But that's the best way. When someone just shouts you out for you without you having to ask. That's the most humble way. And there's this thing where I guess they call it flex. There's a lot of weird flex out there right now where people are so quick to pat themselves in the back. Like, oh, here I am. I did a good deed. I went to the retirement home. I talked to old people. I fed the homeless. I gave them a meal because I'm special. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You did do a good thing. But something definitely rubs me the wrong way when it becomes so self-congratulatory like that. And they really feel the need to share it because they're going to get a little boost from it. And like I said, it's not all bad that they do. It may inspire people to do it as well. But it's not very humble to do. That's the bottom line. Paul Newman, for example, he donated millions of dollars that no one even knew he did until after he died. And I always like to refer back to Oscar Wilde quotes, but he had said something that the best feeling in the world is doing something anonymously and then having people find out it was you by no fault of your own. And I think that's pretty cool too. But we need to, as a whole, try to instill some of this humility back in our lives. And I think one of the best ways would be to stop rewarding narcissism. The Kardashians, they seem a lot like narcissists to me. Look at me, exaggerated sense of self-importance. Do they have an NPD? I don't think so. But they absolutely have a lot of these narcissistic traits. And we all can do something to make sure narcissists don't get as rewarded. I know I was going to jiu-jitsu, and my old professor, he does not like Conor McGregor for that very reason, that he's had a lot of narcissistic traits. He's basically gaslighting his opponents, and he's talking all sorts of trash, and he's absolutely not really being humble. And I can see exactly why he doesn't like him. It makes sense. And so the reason I'm sharing this today is for people just to be on the lookout for all the ways we are acting narcissist in ourselves. Like, I get it. I kind of think sometimes that I have success. I'm destined for success and unlimited. And I fantasize about the ways that I could succeed in having the perfect partner. Yeah, I have some narcissistic traits too. But it's, I think, pretty informative for me to know that that's what they are. They are narcissistic traits. Like, a little humility never hurt anybody. And those who are not humble will often eventually be humiliated. Conor McGregor, yeah, he got his ass whooped by Khabib. Other people, Donald Trump, yeah, he's been humiliated many times. It just hasn't seemed to have affected him too much. But let's try to instill this humility back into our lives. It seems like it'd be a very good thing. It seems like it's absolutely what, as a society, we're dying for right now. Some humility. Less of look at me, look at me, look at me, but more like just humbly doing the next right thing and not sharing and telling everyone about it. Yeah, seems pretty interesting to me. And if you're a victim of narcissistic personality disorder and its abuse, absolutely do understand that you do not need to take that. And it is abuse, and you are not crazy. It is emotional abuse when people gaslight you. 100%. And there's no reason for you to have to take it. Now, for someone who does have narcissistic personality disorder, there are no medicines to take for this. You actually do have to just go through therapy. And in my experience, most NPD, people who suffer from that, they do not change. And they believe other people don't change either, but they don't change. They're crazy, and the best thing to do is to avoid them and to cut them off. I understand sometimes that's not possible in a workplace situation or even a family situation, but you gotta be cool and know what's going on. Being aware of it, once you're aware of the abuse, you know more about the person who has narcissistic personality disorder than they do about themselves. Keep that one in mind too. So let's move forward here. Let's work on this humility. Let's stop rewarding people for being narcissist and do the next right thing without having to shout it from the rooftops. Just be cool about it. So that's all I have for you today. Again, Everything Eccentric podcast coming up around the corner. I've had about 4 episodes recorded so far, and I'm pretty excited to start uploading them as soon as I get to my 5th one. And until then, have a great rest of your day.